Hi everyone, and welcome to theory competency number 2, which for me today is going to be the agenda setting theory, which is also known as the agenda setting function theory, which was developed by two psychologists, Maxwell McCombs and Donald Shaw, in 1972 after a good bit of research through the presidential campaigns in 1968, 1972, 1976, but their primary focus was 1968. So what the theory found was that there was a strong correlation between issues that voters found to be important and issues that were prominently reported, consistently reported in the media. So a good example of this would be like the Watergate scandal that happened, was reported for about 5 or 6 months prior to it ever actually kind of building up. So the issue happened right before the election. It was reported on in the front page of a bunch of major newspapers for about 5 to 6 months. And as it was front page and it was continuously pushed by the newspaper, people began to perceive it as an important or a big issue because they correlated front page and big headline, meaning important or of some significance in their life. So as that continued to happen and it was continually pushed, it started to gain traction, right? People were upset. People began to talk to their elected officials. Then we started to see movement in Congress. And by the time we get to the 12-month period in the Watergate scandal, Nixon was leaving office. So we look at when Nixon first started talking about Watergate, he called them third-party, third-rate crooks. He said that basically it was just a minor incident, nothing to worry about, there's no importance. Now, had the two journalists that put the issue on the front page for multiple months and continue to push media attention, all the media outlets towards it, not done that, it's very likely that the issue would have just been underplayed and continued to rely. So some way that we can kind of correlate that to the political climate we live in now, I would say is kind of the push we have between the Donald Trump voters of America and the non-Donald Trump voters in America. And I label it this way because there are so many different facets on the political spectrum, and whenever I'm applying this theory, right, the agenda setting theory, most likely when we're talking agenda setting, it goes into social issues and then policy issues, which all comes back to politics. You know, policy is formed by politics. So we look at some of the things that have kind of gone on in this past presidency. In the Obama era, it would have been like Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, the way that the media framed that, which is an aspect of the theory, right? Framing, the way that the media perceives it. Or in the Donald Trump presidency, it would be things like the border security and asylum seekers that we have currently in our nation. So something really big I want to point out about this theory is that when it was first started, the media was considered biased, but there was a little bit of, there's less cognitive dissonance than there is now with the media. So nowadays we know the media, right? There is companies and backers and investors that own these media companies, like how Jeff Bezos owns a large media conglomerate. And so those people that control the media control the stories and the information that's put out. Because at the end of the day, even if it's not making money, they still own the paper or the news outlet or the advertising agency, whatever it may be. So we've kind of come to establish and understand that there are people that influence our media, whether it be like Fox News being known as pretty conservative, whether we have like CNN being known as pretty liberal. These are all frames that we as people with our political agendas and our own social agendas put on the media, right? I view Fox News as conservative. I view CNN as liberal. These are frames that I know going into the situation, which kind of brings me to an important part about the theory known as the index of curiosity. So the index of curiosity is a part of the agenda setting theory that basically says how much we let the media shape our views based off of the information that we know. So if I know a lot of information about a certain topic and I see the media reporting differently or what I would consider incorrectly on the topic, that's going to put a red flag for me. I'm going to think that that media is biased or that that media has some alternative motive to it. And so I immediately will now put that media in that column, whether it's conservative, liberal, whether it's anti-immigration, whether it's anti-equality, whatever the case may be, you get those lenses developed on the media. So that's kind of part of the phenomenon, like we talked about framing, which is kind of ties into the whole thing again. You know, the media can tell us how to think about an issue through the way that they report it or the way that they frame it. So the way that I view something based off of the way that I read it or that I see it, whether that be, you know, how newspapers, the front page and the biggest headline are considered the most important. The top evening news story of the night is considered the most pressing important issue in the country or in the state or whatever the outlet level is that's pushing it. And so this is how we kind of see that the agenda setting theory falls into all of that, and playing a really vital part in communication theory, right? Mass communication, and how we as voters take information in, how we process information, and then how it causes issues. So just as the media can shape what we think, we also can shape what the media thinks. If there's an important issue to us as voters, by getting the word out, by making an uproar, news media then starts to pick the issue up. They determine that since enough people have that as an important issue, that we should keep that issue, and they push it. And sometimes those issues end up with social change. So this was kind of my quick breakdown of the agenda setting theory. I hope you enjoyed, and everyone have a great evening.